I once experienced winter days when the electricity was cut off for hours, even days. The weather was cold, my hands and feet were numb, and all modern appliances were useless at that time. It was in that situation that I realized if I didn't actively create heat, no one else would. And from then on, I began experimenting with simple, easy to make manual heating methods to avoid relying entirely on electricity or expensive fuel. This is a step many people often skip, but it's extremely important. I used a measuring tape placed directly on the tray to measure the actual dimensions. I didn't estimate, but measured the actual width, length, and height of the tray. I measured the width of the tray. I measured the length of the tray. I marked the dimensions directly on the cardboard. This helps the cardboard fit snugly against the tray, preventing it from shifting when the wax is poured in. Then I drew parallel, equally sized compartments. Each compartment corresponded to one use. This method allows for easy heat control. If you need less heat, burn one compartment. If you need more heat, burn two or three compartments. Avoid burning the entire compartment as this is wasteful. This is a manual energy management method, very effective for survival. Next is candles. I chose candles because they are a stable energy source, easy to maintain, and not dependent on electricity or batteries. In winter, when there's a power outage or fuel like gas becomes scarce, candles are almost the last thing still usable. Now I melt candles using a double boiler, not direct heating. Direct heating easily burns the wax to a crisp, uneven heat, risk of strong ignition unsafe. With a double boiler, the wax melts slowly, cleanly, and stably, maintaining the candle's long burning properties. While waiting for the candle to melt, I prepare sawdust in a tray. Many people ask, why not use firewood for faster burning? Large pieces of firewood burn quickly, are difficult to control, and consume more fuel. Sawdust holds wax very well, burns slowly, doesn't flare up, provides long-lasting heat. This is ideal for long-term heating, not just short-term burning. Once the candle has completely melted, slowly pour the melted wax into the sawdust. Don't pour it all at once. The purpose is allowing the wax to penetrate each layer of sawdust, creating a strong bond. At this point, the sawdust is no longer loose, but a complete fuel block, burns slowly, doesn't melt or spread, retains heat for a long time. With the same amount of candle wax, the heating time increases significantly. After completion, place the tray in the freezer. Freezing helps stabilize the wax, create a solid fuel block, make it easier to break and use, make it safer to transport. This is why I always keep a few trays like this ready before winter. Now, let's start with the most important part of this stove. First, I measure and mark the position on the bottom of the can. After marking, I use a cutting machine to cut a notch off part of the bottom of the can, not completely remove it. The reason is that I still need the rim of the can to maintain the rigidity of the pipe body. If I cut it all off, the can would be very weak and easily warped during assembly. This notch is where hot air continues to flow through. It creates airflow inside the chimney. This is where many people make mistakes. After cutting, I use a file to smooth out the sharp edges. This prevents cuts to the hands during operation. It makes it easier for the cans to fit together and prevents uncontrolled gaps. A bad cut can damage the entire system when heat expands. When joining the cans, I don't position the notched parts in the same direction, but rotate them in opposite directions. When joining the cans, I don't use screws, but rivets. Because rivets are lightweight, no threads required, they won't loosen on vibrations, and they have better heat resistance than small screws. They're quick, secure, and have minimal error. In emergency situations, we need something simple, sturdy, with minimal tool dependence. Rivets meet that requirement. The reason is very important. When hot air rises, if the notches are aligned, the airflow will go straight, too fast, and the heat won't have time to transfer to the pipe before being sucked out. When the notches are opposite, the hot air is forced to change direction constantly, creating a slight vortex inside the pipe. The result is heat is retained longer, the pipe walls heat evenly, heating efficiency increases significantly. Smoke comes out steadily, without jerks. In survival, slow but steady is always better than fast and wasteful. I repurposed an old PU paint can for the stove body. The reason I chose a PU paint can is because its steel is quite thick, heat resistant, and doesn't deform quickly when burned for a long time. First, I cleaned the outside, keeping the original shape so the stove body would be sturdy enough to last in the long run. Then I placed the tin can containing the combustion chamber on the can, aligning it perfectly with the center, and marked it with a pen. This step is crucial. Any misalignment will cause uneven burning. I didn't cut it all at once, but drilled several small holes around the marked line. This prevents the metal from tearing during cutting, resulting in a cleaner and safer cut. Next, I used a cutting machine to slowly cut along the drilled holes. There's no need to rush. Cutting evenly will prevent the paint can from denting. After opening the door, I used pliers to bend the metal edges inwards. These edges serve as air vents and help guide air into the combustion chamber more effectively. Finally, I placed the combustion chamber inside, aligning it perfectly. Stand it up and then screw it in place. I screwed in each screw one by one, tightening them gently to make the stove body sturdy but not warp the box. Once this part was done, the stove body was complete, very sturdy, very stable, sufficient for long-term use in survival or camping conditions. This is the stove I just finished building in a few minutes. The stove body is made from an old PU paint can, a thick, heat-resistant steel that retains heat well. In survival situations, the less heat loss, the more fuel efficient it is. The fuel I used is a mixture of sawdust and candle wax frozen in the freezer. Sawdust is easy to find, and candles can be repurposed from old ones. Once frozen, this mixture burns slowly, doesn't flare up strongly, and holds a flame for a long time. Exactly what I needed at this moment. I tested the fire outside first. Just a small spark ignited the fuel immediately, creating a neat and stable flame. Then I put it directly into the combustion chamber. Thanks to the front air vent and the sealed stove body, air is drawn to the exact point where it needs to burn. The fire is concentrated deep inside, not scattering outwards, making it very economical. The chimney on top is made of tuna cans stacked in a row. The chimney isn't just for smoke escape. When the smoke is directed upwards, it creates a suction. Conversely, it draws more oxygen into the combustion chamber, helping the flame burn stronger without a fan or electricity. When the stove starts to get hot, I use a wire brush to clean off the remaining PU paint on the outside. This reduces odor and increases safety when the stove has to operate for a long time in winter. Next, I put a pot of water on it and added eggs for a real-world test. After only a short time, the water boiled noticeably. The heat is concentrated, not dispersed, enough for cooking, heating water, and warming hands in cold conditions. Most importantly, the fuel consumption is very low, just a few pieces of sawdust and wax, but it keeps the flame burning for a long time and evenly. In winter power outages, this is the difference between enduring the cold and surviving. The stove doesn't need electricity or gas. Recycled materials, inexpensive, anyone can make it. It saves costs, utilizes waste, and is environmentally friendly. Safety note: always place the stove in a ventilated area, not use in a closed room, and only operate when the stove has completely cooled down. In survival, it's not always the complicated things that save you. Sometimes it's the things people throw away that keep you alive through the winter.